What should we make of the kind of closing arguments, though, we're getting from them? Kamala Harris focusing increasingly frequently on age and acuity.
Yes, it's sounding a little bit like the Republican argument over the summer when Biden was in the campaign, for sure. We're definitely going to see her continue to hammer that pretty hard. She did it in the Bret Baier interview on Fox News. But we're also going to see them really dispatching their most powerful surrogates. And for Harris, that is the Obamas. You'll see the former president with her in Georgia next week, and you'll see Michelle Obama in Michigan. And on the Trump side, we have Elon Musk, who I think has pretty much moved into the state of Pennsylvania and is did his first rally there yesterday and plans several more.
Yeah, and we've had some great reporting on how frequently Donald Trump is bringing up Elon Musk, a pretty popular name to raise at his rallies, as Musk is in the running, we understand, for running this government efficiency commission. As we talk about government efficiency in the ledger of the government when it comes to revenue and spending, Donald Trump also proposed a new tax idea today that members of the military, firefighters, policemen would be exempt from paying them. I spoke with Ben Harris of the Brookings Institution about that idea on the early edition of Balance of Power.
His approach has been to start with the TCJA extension, which costs $5 trillion over 10 years, and then to add on all of these special tax breaks that really don't have an economic justification. You know, as you just mentioned, tax breaks for wages, for tips, tax breaks for particular occupations, tax breaks for people who receive Social Security benefits, which, by the way, would completely undermine Social Security and Medicare finances. We're already up probably close to around $10 trillion and counting. This isn't a realistic set of proposals. They're just far too expensive to ever make it through Congress.
So on that point, Megan, are any of these ideas ever going to make it through Congress?
Well, it's beginning to sound a little bit like a student council president race with lots of promises that likely are not going to come to fruition. Taxes will be high on the congressional agenda next year, but all of these tax breaks are going to be difficult to pass through. You know, you've now had both sides weigh in on tipped wages, for instance. Maybe there could be some sort of an agreement there. But tax cuts cost the government money, essentially, in terms of revenue that they're not bringing in. And then that then translates into more debt and, more deficit spending. So it is going to be a very difficult needle to thread, and I don't think all of those tax breaks are going to make it through next year. Okay,
well, I also just wonder why we're still talking about tax breaks or new ones at this point in the race. Historically, do we see new policy ideas introduced this late in the game with just 18 days to go?
I think that right now the race is so tight, maybe one of the tightest races we've ever seen. So it is a matter of mobilizing voters to get them out to the polls. So if you're dangled a promise or even just a proposal of, well, maybe you won't have to pay taxes or as much in taxes, that could get you off the couch. And I think that's what both of these candidates are trying to do at this moment, because it's going to come down to who gets off the couch.
Yep, it's going to be a turnout game. Bloomberg's Megan Scully, thank you so much. Now, in the Middle East, calls for a ceasefire between Israel and Hamas have grown following the killing of Hamas leader Yahya Sinwar yesterday in Gaza. Here's President Biden speaking from Germany about that earlier today.
The death of the leader of Hamas represents a moment of justice. He had the blood of Americans and Israelis, Palestinians and Germans and so many others on his hands. I told the Prime Minister of Israel yesterday, let's also make this moment an opportunity to seek a path to peace, a better future in Gaza without Hamas.
Joining us now for more is Bloomberg's Courtney McBride, who reports on national security for us. So, Courtney, the U.S. has been advocating for a ceasefire for months on end. Is there a real feeling among the administration that this time is different, that the death of Sinwar fundamentally changes the equation for those at the negotiating table?
I think there's hope that this could present an opportunity, but they're also realistic that, Sinwar will have a successor. One is perhaps already in an acting role, but that this could offer a chance to bring Hamas back to the negotiating table. For about a month, Sinwar had refused to communicate, even with the mediators who were representing Hamas's interests at the table.
Well, there's also the question of a body or an entity not at the table, which is Iran. Hamas, of course, being a proxy of Iran. And we're still waiting for Israel's response to Iran's attempted missile attack from just a few weeks ago. And we also heard from President Biden about that earlier today. He was asked specifically if he knew what the response would be and when it would be coming. Here was that exchange.
Mr. President, do you have a good understanding right now what Israel is going to do in response to Iran's October 1st attacks and when they will actually respond to Iran?
Yes and yes.
Can you tell us?
No and no.
No and no, he will not say what it is or when it will be. But do we have a sense of timing, Courtney? We have been waiting for weeks now.
We have been waiting, but there's not. Certainly, U.S. officials have not disclosed to reporters, despite our best efforts, what the timing might be. I think a lot of the focus in the conversations with the Israeli government has been on target selection and trying to make sure that this response, which the U.S. is adamant is justified, not perpetuate a cycle of retaliatory strikes between the two countries.
Well, and I wonder what role Antony Blinken, the Secretary of State, will be playing in still trying to help guide Israel through that retaliation and, of course, pushing for the ceasefire, because President Biden says he's going back to the region for, what, the 11th time in the next few days?
Yes. We don't know when he would go at this stage, but, yes, this would be the 11th trip to the region since October 7th of 2023.
And what purpose would this particular trip serve? Is it more about the ceasefire after the death of Sinwar, or about making sure Israel feels fortified in the U.S.'s ability to support its defense if it hits Iran?
Likely all of the above. Ordinarily on these trips, the Secretary meets with representatives of the Israeli government, of neighboring governments in the region, and tries to advance all of these objectives of the administration. And that also could include trying to tamp down tensions and create a path toward peace in Lebanon.